welcome to Marauder Mining. My name is Mike. Today we're going to be talking about this 3080 Ti Founders Edition. I got this at a Best Buy drop. I stood in line for this puppy. The problem I'm having with it is that the temperatures are insane. A lot of people are having the same issues with it, so what we're going to do is we're going to tear this down and put better thermal pads, new thermal paste, and I'm going to show you how to do some of the maintenance we do here on the farm. And hopefully we all learn something together. You know, with this channel, my whole purpose is to educate you guys in everything I can, but also learn at the same time. So if you have any suggestions, comment down below. We're going to use these Gilead 1.5 thermal pads. They are very good. They will transfer up to 12.8 watts of heat, and we're going to use MX4 thermal compound. Alright, so some things we're going to need to do the teardown on the 3080 Ti are tape, some screwdrivers. I like my iFixit kit. We're going to need some scissors to cut the thermal pads, a plastic pry tool, and maybe even some tweezers. So first off, we take the pry tool in here and get this Y piece out right here. Be very careful not to break it. Start in the middle and work your way to the edges. Once we have that off, we can go around with some tape and get these hidden screw covers off. One guy said to use duct tape, but I really don't like the idea of duct tape because I think it'll leave a residue. Alright, and then we need to start taking the screws off. Here, let's take this out, and this power cable. Okay, so those ones are Phillips. These ones over here are T5, I believe. Yeah, T5. Yeah, these Founders Edition cards, these thermal pads on them they're just horrible. Although I do have a 3080 that seems to run pretty good. It's a Founders Edition card. You know, and I bought it after they said they were going to go to LHR. As a matter of fact, I got it just recently, and they didn't limit the hash rate on the Founders cards. Not the original ones. Is this the right size? We need to get a smaller size. The design of these cards are really, really attractive. I really like the design of these cards. This 3080 Ti doesn't do too bad on the hash rate now that they've had some time to go through and resolve some of the LHR mods they put on them. Got those screws out, and that just comes right off there, and we have some thermal pads on here. If you can, I'm going to take a look at it. It's like this chalky, nasty thermal pads. They're really not good at all. These ones in here our T5 as well. I believe. Oh, maybe they're not. Hang on. Gotta go to a bigger one. Maybe they are a 5. Maybe I just didn't have them. These are a T6 for this back plate. You kind of want to try and remember exactly where all these screws go. This thing's got quite the amount of tension on this thing. Remove this cable right here. Gotta slide this lock forward. And it should come right out. I don't know why I'm having issues with mine. This always seems to be the case. There we go. That's off. We gotta get this ribbon cable off. Let's move this out of the way here. Let's just kind of flip that little lock up right here, and then it should just come right out. You kind of want to be careful with these though, because you don't want to end up tearing them. There's another one over here. I believe that's all of them. Alright, then we want to flip this up and get these screws out. It's going to be a little bigger Torx bit. Let's see what size we got here. Looks like this might be it. I'm using a T10 on these. And again, try and keep track of where all your screws are going. I think a T10 is just a little big. Let's try and find the actual size here. It's a T8. So there's 4 of these screws that you have to get out right here for this bracket. 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. I want to be real careful not to lose any of these screws either, because they're all real small. That. Be real careful pulling that off. Make sure there's no cables attached there. And as you can see, look at, I mean, the thermal paste application is not good. It's rock solid. It's just, it's not even malleable. And then these thermal pads, I mean, they're some kind of nasty mesh. So we're going to clean this up and we'll be right back with you. Alright, so all I did was remove the thermal pads and cleaned up all the thermal paste on the cooler. I want to show you how I was removing them. I just took a razor blade, and because these things are nasty. They're made out of like a mesh and some kind of goop. They're really not good thermal pads. And then once I got that clean, I just use rubbing alcohol with a paper towel just to clean it the rest of the way up. And now the cooler is ready to go for new thermal pads. We kind of want to make sure though, that piece keeps falling out. Alright, so make sure you don't lose that piece right there. There's also some little rubber grommets that the screws go into that you want to make sure you don't lose. So then we just take some more rubbing alcohol and clean up the GPU itself. As you can see, this thermal paste is dry and it is just terrible to remove. You really want to be careful though that you don't end up knocking off a MOSFET or hurting one of the chips. But look at that. After all that scrubbing, it's still that filthy. And it's because this thermal paste is just, it's not any good. It doesn't, you know, a good thermal paste should be wet. It should not be hard like this. And this is why this card was getting well over 100 degrees C. Navida really needs to step up their game in this aspect. I'm going to set that down for a second and get some more alcohol on my rag here, because Still not totally clean. Man, that really is on there. The cleaner you get it, the better, because when you go to put the new thermal paste on, you want it to make good contact. And that dye's pretty clean. I'm not going to worry too much about this little bit of stuff around there. I will, however, worry about these MOSFETs right here, the RAM chips, and cleaning those up, because they had those thermal pads on them. There's a little bit of residue left over. And that looks pretty good. Alright, now we gotta take these thermal pads off of the back plate here. There's one that went over here too, that stuck to the GPU itself. But I mean, look at that. It's just, it's mush. Navida did not spend a whole lot of money on these. It's just, they're terrible. That one I'm not even going to worry about. Alright. Because I don't have anything that thin. That's like 1/4 mil. So now we're going to cut thermal pads to replace the ones that we took off. Just got to find my scissors are right here. So we'll start with this one back there. And I'm just going to tell you, spend the money, get the good thermal pads. You got a big investment in the card. I made the mistake of trying to get cheaper ones. And when I did that, the card was not happy. Was not happy at all. So I'm going to tell you to spend the money and get the good ones. I had to take them back apart and redo everything. So you want to make sure that you get a good thermal pad. And the thing that I would check in the thermal pad when you're looking at it in the store where you're buying it is what's the wattage on the thermal conductivity. That's what you're going to want to watch for, because that's going to matter. It's going to matter a lot, because the more heat it can disperse, the better, and wattage converts into heat. Right there. Now I'm going to tell you, if you don't know what you're doing, probably not a good idea to attempt this. But I've been doing things with computers for a long time, and I have no problem handling this myself. But this is why I'm making this tutorial too, is so you can learn. needed 2 little ones for back here. Alright, so that takes care of those ones. And we're just going to stick this right back on there like that. Whoop. Okay. Alright, it's in the right place. And now we're going to cut thermal pads for the MOSFETs. But I'm going to probably put them on here. Take your time with this stuff. Don't let things frustrate you, because then you're just going to end up breaking stuff. And you know, these cables, the fan cables, they're very small. Alright, so we went through and cut all of our thermal pads. And when I'm doing other GPUs like this, I try to make the thermal pads the size of the MOSFET themselves, because I think it allows for airflow between the MOSFETs, and I think you get better cooling that way. It's just my personal opinion. But these MOSFETs, the VRAM chips, are so close that I don't think it'd make a difference in this instance. So now that we got all that, all we have left to do is thermal paste. I'm using MX4. And that'll squish out when we put it back on. Make sure, yep, goes this way. Oh, but I think I made the mistake of putting that back plate on too soon, because we gotta make sure all your ribbon cables are out of the way when you go to put this back on, because you don't want to get it in there and have to take it out, because you need to dig out the ribbon cable, and you don't want to try and dig out the ribbon cable around the board, because you could end up hurting the cable itself. So kind of want to be careful about how we do this part. Way I just did it, I've kind of found it easier to start over here and work my way around with the different cables. Get that back lined up. Get our fan hooked back up. And then got to get these cables back in, because they're so small. I don't think it's going to be terribly simple. That wasn't too bad. Once you get that back in, there's a little black clip. You click that down. This power fan just has a little connector right here that you slide that way, or you slide back in to lock that.
And then this one looks like it might be a little bit of a challenge. That one does not want to go in. Alright, we got that in. Once you got that in, make sure it's all the way in. And then click your little black locking tab back down. Make sure it's all on all the pins. There's little pins on the GPU mount itself. Then I'm going to go straight for the X brace. And the reason why is because it definitely has to be done before this cover's put back on. Not only that, but it'll help disperse that thermal paste. And everything wants to stick to my screwdriver. Find the right bit again. Well, which one are you? Alright, and these are T6. There's one. And I'll go straight over here to the other side. It's kind of, in my opinion, like tightening a car tire. You want to kind of do opposites. And I just feel that is necessary to help the thermal paste squish out better. Where's my other stuff? It's over here. And once we get that in, we're going to put, just check all these real quick, make sure we're good. Oh yeah. Alright, now we're going to put this plate back on. Well, that might be a little bit of a problem. See what's happening here? The board kind of slid back. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take the screw back out. When I tipped the card up, the board slid back out of place. And so now I gotta get it back where it was. Alright, now it's back on its pins. Alright, when you go to screw this plate on, make sure that you got those holes lined up for your video outputs. I feel like I'm having a terrible time with this screwdriver today. Alright, well maybe I got the wrong size bit. Maybe that's what it is. Find our other screws here. One right there. Two more over here. I'm just going to put these in the holes. Really hard to do this and record a video and make sure your hand doesn't get in the way. Lots of things to pay attention to. Making a video just makes it that much more difficult. Alright, so we just about got these. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. And everything's hooked back up, so the only thing we have left to do is get this back on. Make sure our thermal pads are still where they need to be. Out of the way here. Alright, so out here's Torque's bit. These ones are Phillips. So we want to make sure we put the right screws in the right spot. I think a good majority of the Founders Editions cards, especially 3080 on up, have heat issues. Because of the way they did this design with the thermal pads and stuff. Screw there. back and get these Phillips heads in. This card should run a lot cooler. But I'm going to show you the live results. There's our final screw. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Share with all your friends. So here we are. 3080's been up running, well, 3080 Ti's been up and running about an hour now after we replaced the thermal pads. And I'm averaging anywhere from 82 to 83 mega hash. And my temperature's been sitting between anywhere from 54 to 56 degrees Celsius. So the fact of the matter is when I was running this card before, in the environment I was running it before, which is the same environment I'm running it in now, this card was hitting 100 plus degrees C. And I just shut the rig down because I was scared that the solder joints on the VRAMs would come undone or the GPU would get messed up. So I shut it down, and I've waited for weeks now, and I finally got it done. But this is the results, and I'm really, really pleased with the results. Those Gilead thermal pads did the trick, and that MX4 is just unstoppable. Again, if you like this kind of content, or if you want to see me do something, leave a comment down below and let me know what you want to see. And please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends.